This is the My Writing Diary podcast. I'm Bill Wong. Last week I had a sore throat and I could not record. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. I have about 45,000 words. I only need another 10 to 15,000 and I can finish my first draft. I'm hoping I can do it in the next 10 to 14 days. One of the major themes is about leadership. Leaders often have hubris when facing a crisis and lack seriousness. Often decision makers seek to increase power rather than solve problems. Today, I will highlight what I wrote about over the past 2 weeks, in no particular order. I introduced the son of a Syrian president who is a 22-year-old college student, who is very intelligent but has some emotional control issues. His father doesn't know his son at all, and Yusuf has no interest in being president. The father, however, is dying of cancer and requested that his son return home. Unfortunately, the dad dies before he's able to complete his son's training, and on his deathbed, the father reveals his one regret is not reclaiming the Golan Heights during the 73 war, which plants the seed of an idea in the son's mind. I crashed the Egyptian stock market from monetary policy missteps, causing the currency market, the stock market, and the economy to crash. I had to research monetary policy and what a few countries did to make their economies worse. Some of them raised interest rates at the wrong time, then lowered them, and flooded the economy with cheap money, causing hyperinflation. The government needs a stable and thoughtful central bank. At the Syrian president's funeral, the newly installed young president meets the Egyptian president who is facing riots and protests in his streets. The 22-year-old president has access to biological and chemical weapons. One of the reasons why he wants to attack Israel is so that he can get nuclear weapons. And although Israel is surrounded by oil-producing countries, due to the politics, it has to get its crude oil elsewhere, such as Russia or Turkey, via the Red Sea or the Mediterranean Sea. In 1999, there was a pipeline from the east coast to the west coast of Israel. But not until 2005 was there a pipeline leading into Israel so it can obtain its oil. All of its oil had to come via oil tankers. I created a situation where the Arab countries are paying pirates to hijack the oil so that they can sell it on the black market, to starve Israel of fuel during its time of war. Now, in a prior podcast, my main character, Revka, due to her father's lack of belief, single-handedly killed 4 Egyptian commandos. She brings one of the bodies, their dog tags, and their weapons into Central Command. Her CO is impressed with Revka's ability not only to kill, but to have the foresight to bring in evidence. He embeds her in a forward unit. In 1999, it was rare to embed intel analysts in forward operating units. I needed to research whether this happened and if this was plausible. I wanted a device to get Revka and Rami together so that their romance could flourish. She is going to be one of a dozen intelligence officers embedded in units, and Rami is going to be an Arab translator. The Egyptians planned a combined beach landing and paratroopers in or around Jerusalem to disrupt their command and control. However, they need large transports, but they are very expensive, so they must get them from their Russian benefactors. At first, I gave the Egyptians American-made C-17 transports, but realized they would never have American-made aircraft. So I had to change them to Russian-made IL-76 transports. In addition, they needed 2 of them, enough for 100 paratroopers and 7 Russian-made Humvee-type vehicles. I also created 3 or 4 types of operations. Operation Blinding is a series of cyber attacks on Israeli systems. Operation Prime Target is an Arab-funded assassination plot on the Israeli Prime Minister. Operation Rolling Umbrella is the mitigation of the Israeli failures from the Agonot Commission. Unfortunately, history repeats itself because of arrogance and hubris. Though I talked about the chapter called The Sheep and the Lion before, I want to discuss it again. Over and over, especially for middle managers who desire to be senior managers, they rather avoid risks than take risks. They'd rather fit in than be a nail that could be hammered down. Revka's commanding officer is a typical middle manager who is form over substance, and I struggled writing a character who chooses indecision in a crisis. I assumed anyone who is a commanding officer would have courage. However, when I did research, I found that is not the case. And I wanted to make the Israeli war escalate into a world war with nuclear weapons. I didn't think it was believable. How could a leader who has been trained in a position to protect us fail so miserably because of lack of courage? I was wrong. Research has shown time and time again that leaders in charge often fail to show courage and decisiveness when it's most needed. Look at Uvalde, pre-9/11, the 73 war and World War II. I modeled the commander after many of the cowards who I have met throughout my life. I observed their mannerisms and their appearance of strength, but it was only a show. I don't know if they know that was an act, or after years of acting, they fool themselves. I try to love all my characters when I write them, but I loathe the commanding officer who decided to take a nap rather than make a critical decision because he might be wrong and held accountable. I often wonder how people live as cowards and how do they live with themselves. I have no words, and that's terrible for a writer. And Revka is one of the few heroes in the story, and she's a woman and is destroyed by the institutions she is trying to preserve, and the people who are cowards ultimately destroy her. This is the My Writing Diary podcast. I'm Bill Wong. See you on the pages.